If we pick job analysis, like I explained earlier, what you would want to answer, the major questions you want to answer when it comes to job analysis is that for this particular job, what are the tasks or what are the responsibilities that this job or the holder of this job is supposed to perform? So what is the person supposed to do? The person is supposed to analyze reports. The person is supposed to develop reports. The person is supposed to present reports. The person is supposed to evaluate reports. Those are the specific tasks given to the person. So in job analysis, what you do is you try and identify what these specific tasks are. And the next question you ask yourself is, how are these tasks performed? So you're looking at what the person is supposed to do, how the person is supposed to do it. Very, very important. What the person is supposed to do and how the person is supposed to do it. Now, once you are able to find out what the person is supposed to do, how the person is supposed to do, the next thing would be what qualities are required. Do I need somebody with 3 years experience? Do I need somebody who has gone to primary school, senior high school, somebody with degree, somebody with a professional qualification? What qualities do I need to be able to perform this task very well? What qualities are needed? If you're doing job analysis and you're unable to answer these 3 questions, then it means you have not started your process very well. First, ask yourself, what task, what responsibilities, what is expected of this job? How is the person expected to do this job? And what qualities are required? The qualities here are talking about the person's skills, we're talking about the person's knowledge, we're talking about the person's abilities. What we normally call in HR SKAs or KSs. Knowledge for the K, S for the skills, and A for the abilities. What knowledge, what skill, what abilities are needed? So if it's an accounting job, the knowledge needed is a knowledge in accounting. You cannot go pick a knowledge in poetry to come and say you use that to satisfy a job that requires knowledge in accounting. Now, if you want to do a job analysis, it's not a quantitative process. Job analysis is a qualitative process, which means that you do not need a lot of calculation, or you don't virtually even need calculations to be able to do job analysis. All you have to do is prepare a questionnaire, give to the person. You go to the office. If there are 10 people you want to analyze their jobs, you create questionnaires and give to them. all you're asking them is, what is the title of your job? What are the things you do on daily basis? What are the things you do on weekly basis? What are the things you do on monthly basis? What are the things you do on biannual basis? What are the things you do half yearly? What are the things you do full yearly? Give questionnaires for the person to respond, or do checklists for the person to indicate, this I do, this I do not do. Or you sit the person down, have an interview for the person to tell you what they do. The person tells you what kind of skill or what kind of tools or what kind of knowledge they use in performing the jobs they do. It's very important. So you give the questionnaire, or you sit the person down, you have your engagement, you have your interaction, and the person is telling you, oh, for this job, when I come in the morning, the first thing I do is I go and check whether there is tea on my line manager's desk. I check the in tray and the out tray to make sure that there are no documents lying there unattended. I check my phone to make sure all calls have been returned. The person is telling you their specific task. When you line these tasks up, then now you can arrange them to find out what the responsibility or the task or the duties of the job are. Then you ask the next question. So what qualification do you need to be able to do this? Say, oh, for this job, you should probably be very good at secretariatship because you are filing or you are writing minutes. It's a job that requires for you to do a lot of calculations. So you have basic accounting. So based on that one, now you even are able to define the qualities or the educational qualifications needed to do this job. After you go through this process, then you are able to collect the necessary information needed to analyze the job. So from the interview, from the questionnaire, from the checklist, you are able to now collect every information about the job, every information you need. Then now you review the information, or you process the information that you have collected, and then now you come out with what we call the job description. Your job description basically will talk about the name of the job or the title of the job. Then now it goes to the next one. What are the duties or the objectives of that job, what the job seeks to achieve. Then it goes to what the duties, responsibility, or the task are. And then it comes to what we call the person specification or the job specification. What qualities you need to be able to do this job. Very straightforward. So strategically, and this chart on your screen walks you through the process for doing a job analysis. You pick the strategic jobs that you want to analyze. The jobs that you want to analyze, you choose them. You collect every needed information about the job. You now process the information, or you analyze the information you've collected. And then you come out with what we call the job description, which is made up of the tasks, the responsibilities. And then you do what we call the job specification, which talks about the qualities needed to be able to perform this task. I'll pause at this section and ask if anybody is confused. If not, then I'll move on, because the next one I'm going to move on to job evaluation. And then I'll walk us through just a simple process of doing the two. So if anybody has any question on job analysis at this point, I'll briefly take it just for 5 minutes. Then now we can go on to the next one. Alternatively, you can hold on to your questions also if you want to do it at the end. But if anybody has a question that would make it difficult for you to understand the next one, you can ask now. I'll clarify for you. Then we move on. Just 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Kojo. Please, if you have any question, you can just raise your hand and then I will call you. Right. You can also drop it in the chat. There's a question from Dolores. It says, how do you analyze a new job? How do you analyze a new job?
Okay. So, Dolores, thank you for the question. Now, There are two kinds of new jobs. There are new jobs that already exist somewhere else and you are bringing in, and there are new jobs that does not exist anywhere, you are now creating them. If it's a new job that already exists, then the information on the task and responsibilities for that job is always available. So you can always get it and fine-tune it to your organization. But if it's a new job you are creating from scratch that does not exist anywhere, then the first question to ask yourself is, why am I creating this new job? What is the objective? What do I want to achieve with this new job? That's always the first step. What is the objective of this new job? So I'm creating a job called online facilitator. I've checked everywhere, there's no such job. The question I ask myself is, why do I need an online facilitator? What do I seek to achieve? So I said that, okay, I need this person so that the person will be able to handle all training programs that we do online. So that's the objective why I'm forming, or I'm setting this new position, or I'm creating this new position. Once this is understood as the objective, then the next question I ask myself is, okay, so what do I, the one creating the job, what do I want to see this person do for me to say that this person is working the way I expect? I need to ask myself, what do I want to see? Do I want to see somebody who just comes, logs on, and is just sitting there and laughing with people, logs on, leaves it and goes and comes back after 3 hours and shuts down? What specifically do I need? I need to list, okay, this person that I bring. It's like when you want to pick a studies teacher or a home tutor for your child. You put down the things that you expect this home tutor to do when he or she comes home. So I want this person to come home at 4 p.m. every day to teach my child. I want the person to teach my child mathematics, English, and French. I want the person to teach my child how to be able to do change of subject, to be able to do calculus, to be able to do an analysis of that job. I don't know whether I've been able to explain to you, Dolores, but that is what you're supposed to do for a new job that does not exist anywhere. Find out what you should be able to set for objective, what it is that you want that person to do, what you want to achieve. And based on the objective, you go through the step by step to determine what exactly you want the person to be doing on daily basis, on weekly basis, on monthly basis, and so on and so forth. Okay, I can take one
Thank
more,
you.
then I move to the next one.
Okay, so this one is from Richard. Do you need to look at the levels of responsibility and risk related to the job when doing job descriptions? And let me add that to this one. Then is that you mentioned that job analysis is qualitative. Could you clear my mind? Is it both quantitative and qualitative, or only qualitative? And when quantitative comes in, what do you do? Please, can you take this so that we can move on to the next
so
one?
I just take these two questions and I move on to the next one. So yes, the first question that came, I think
Could you there?
it was, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello?
I think Patricia, can you hear me? Can anybody else hear me?
Hello, Kojo, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can anyone else hear me? If you can, please drop in the comment section for me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so the first question Richard asked, the moment you start going into responsibility and risk, they are going to job evaluation. We'll talk about that one later. But when we are talking about we are picking this job. What does it take to do this job? You can define the risk taken to do this job, but that risk is not compared to anybody else. So if it's a job performance or which utilities or which task involves risk, competence. It's mentioned in the job description. But the moment you start wanting to look at the levels of responsibility and the levels of risk, once you bring levels in there, you are going into a realm of comparability. You are comparing. And once it comes into comparing, then you move from job analysis to job evaluation, which we'll talk about in the next slide. Yakubu, yes, I mentioned that when it comes to job analysis, it's qualitative. It's qualitative because you are only comprehensively looking at a particular job. So there's virtually, I'm yet to come across, maybe it's a new phenomenon. I admit that I don't know all, but I'm yet to come across the quantitative bit of job analysis. Because of job analysis, all you are doing is what is the name of the job, what specific tasks and responsibilities are performed, and bottom line, what qualities are needed to perform this. So it's basically observation, basically getting people interviewed, getting people to complete their questionnaires so you can use to analyze. Okay. Now, when it comes to job evaluation, which is different from job analysis, the objective of job evaluation is to find the base or the fundamental, the foundation to determine how much this particular job should be paid. How much or how different is this job from the other job? That is basically what you're doing with job evaluation. You are rating jobs, you are valuing jobs, you are finding the worth of jobs. Just to make sure that two people doing similar jobs do not get disgruntled because one person is being paid more than the other, but then their job worth is the same. It's very important. There is job A and there is job B. When it comes to job evaluation, you are making sure that job A is valued. We know the cost, we know the contribution of job A to the company. We know the cost and the contribution of job B. And so when it comes to job evaluation, unlike job analysis, you are now comparing two or more jobs. Job evaluation, I repeat again, you are comparing two or more jobs. And the whole idea is to determine the base or the fundamental wage opener or salary for each of the jobs. So you have two jobs in your company. You have a security officer and you have somebody you call a watchman. They basically do the same job, but you pay one more than the other. Why? Because when you evaluate the two jobs, you realize that one of the jobs requires a certain level of skill that the other one does not. One of them requires a certain level of academic qualification that the other one does not. And so when you are valuing them, even though on the grounds they seem to do the same job, you agree that the mental of one will be higher than the other. And so you end up placing more value on one and paying one more than the other. That's what, when we talk about job evaluation, we mean. Now, when you're doing job evaluation, the key thing you need to understand is that you are not evaluating the person in the job or on the job, but you are evaluating the job. Sometimes a job requires a first degree, but the person doing the job is having a PhD. So when you want to do the evaluation, you are forced to evaluate the PhD, but it's not the PhD. Because when that person with the PhD leaves the job, the next occupant of the job will come with a first degree. And if you are not careful, you go rate that job a PhD job, and you will pay somebody who is a first degree holder a PhD salary, and it will cause a lot of disparity in your wage system. So the key thing to know when you are doing job evaluation is that you are evaluating the job and not the holder of the job. The second thing you need to understand is that when you are doing evaluation, the criteria you are using to do your rating should be easily explained to everybody. If you're unable to explain the criteria you used to determine that job A is more valuable than job B, then that means you don't go about the exercise very well. So if I'm saying that, look, job A is more valuable than job B because job A requires a master's degree. So it requires a higher kind of education. It's very easy for me to explain this, that look, if a job requires master's degree, then what it means is that that job is worth more than the job that requires an SHS certificate. If I'm able to do this as my criteria, and I can explain this to anybody, straight away, everybody asks, this job, what qualification do you need? Masters. This job, what qualification? JSS leaver. Straight away, it tells you that one job is worth more than the other. Another thing you need to understand is when you are doing job evaluation, you as an HR person, you do not sit in your office and do it all by yourself. You're supposed to include the line managers or the supervisors of the jobs you are rating. Because HR, you do not know everything. There are a lot of times that the information you see on the job description on the ground is totally different. Because someone in our companies, we hardly update job description. Somebody is using the job description that was shared 20 years ago, but the job we are doing today is totally different. Now there's IT, digital, and all those things, but it is not showing or it does not appear on the person's job description. So if you do not include a supervisor or the line manager in a job evaluation exercise, then you would end up making wrong assumptions and you go value a very difficult and important job very low, and you will get people always resigning because they feel they are overworking more than they are being paid. Now, inside of a job evaluation exercise is a job analysis. And so job analysis becomes a subset of job evaluation. Why is that the case? For you to be able to evaluate a job, you need to understand what that job entails. For you to be able to evaluate a job, you need to understand what that job entails. So what do I need a person to do? What does this person do? What qualifications are required to do this job? What qualities or competence are needed to do this job? And then after that one, in the next slide, we would explain more on this flow. After that one, we'll be able to now rate properly the jobs. Now, there are two very simple or very easy ways of doing job evaluation. And this is where, Yakubu, your question is answered. There is a non-analytical way, which is basically a qualitative process. And then there is an analytical way, which is a quantitative process. Two ways. Now, all of you listening, I'll just give a simple assignment, and I would want you all to type your results in the chat box. So I'm going to list 7 jobs, and I would want you to list them in order of importance or in order of worth. The most valuable job at the top and the least valuable job at the bottom. I repeat, I'm going to list 7 jobs for you, and I want you to type in the chat session, arranging in a descending order. At the top is the job that you think is the most valued job, and then at the bottom, the job that you think is the least valued job. Number 1 is the cleaner. Number 2 is the house help. Number 3 is the cook. Number 4 is the gardener. Number 5 is the security officer. Number 6 is the caretaker. Number 7 is the baby sitter. 7 jobs: cleaner, house help, cook, gardener, security officer, caretaker, and babysitter. I would want you to arrange these jobs, the most valuable for you, and then the least valuable from number 1 to 7. And please type them in the chat section for me. Okay, start work. Somebody says I've not said start work, so start work. Richard, I'm not sure in our homes we have job description for these people. All of us, I don't know which one single person here who says he has a job description for a gardener, a cook, a security officer, and a babysitter. We all call them in our homes and we give them the job. We just tell them the job description by word of mouth. So, Richard, do yours. Of course, it will be subjective, but do yours. Everybody else will do theirs. Okay, 2 minutes more. Okay, so Sophia puts the cook first. Let me check Sophia's own. Sophia puts the cook first, puts the babysitter or the nanny second, the house help, the cleaner, the gardener, and then the security. Okay. Abubakar puts the babysitter first, security officer, cook, caretaker, house help, and gardener. Okay. Dolores puts the babysitter, house help, cook, security, cleaner, caretaker, gardener. Richard puts the gardener, the cook, the cleaner, the house help, the caretaker, the house help, the babysitter. One more. Justina puts cleaner, babysitter, gardener, caretaker, house help. Mavis puts cook, security, babysitter, cleaner, house help, gardener. Right. Now, Richard asked a very important question, but even without that information, each and every one of us, in our own way, with our own understanding, we've been able to rank these 7 jobs in order of importance. And if anybody should ask each of you, why did you put cook? Why are you putting gardener? You'll be able to explain based on the peculiarity in your home. A lot of mothers will put babysitter first. Those of us who like food, like myself, will put cook first. Those who like landscaping and cooking and all those things, or like beauty, will probably put gardener first. And so you are evaluating the jobs based on its importance to you in your home. That is what we call the ranking method. The ranking method is very subjective because two people will rank the same jobs differently. So the ranking method is the least expensive method, is the easiest method, but it is the most subjective method. Because the very moment the person who was doing the ranking changes, the jobs will change. So if today I'm having Abubakar as the managing director, you will know which job he would value most and he will pay very well. But the moment Abubakar moves and I bring Richard there, Richard will now know which job to pay higher and which one to pay least. So one of the ways of evaluating jobs, which is one of the non-analytical ways, is the ranking method, where just by observation, just by your intuition, just by your feeling, just by the peculiarities of that business, you start ranking. This one should be at the top, this one should be next, this one should be down there, and then you arrange, and based on that one, you assign salaries to it. Another way you can do this is called the job grading method. Now, the job grading method is where you put jobs or you assign grades to jobs and use that grade to rank the job. So you can easily say that these jobs are manager jobs, these jobs are officer jobs, these jobs are clerical jobs, these jobs are non-clerical jobs, these jobs are director jobs. So when you're ranking, what it means is that the grade, director jobs will be at the top. Next will be manager jobs. Next will be officer jobs. Then clerical jobs and non-clerical. So you are able to evaluate or rank or arrange these jobs based on the grading you are assigned. So once the job is called a manager, automatically you assume that that job is worth more than an officer. Now, the challenge with this approach is that even in our times today, there are certain jobs which are officer jobs, but the worth of that job is more than certain manager jobs. Typical example, you have somebody who is a software analyst. It's an officer job. But the value that job brings to the business is worth more than probably a warehouse manager or maybe a store manager. But job grading method says that once the person falls in the manager category, automatically the value of that job is higher. Once it falls in that category, the value of that job is higher. Again, this is also subjective, and it's also one of the less expensive ways, but it opens itself up to a lot of disparities. The mere fact that I am called, and you know, in our part of the world, we can give titles to a lot of jobs, but when you go into the job, what you are doing in the job is not even worth the title. I mentioned on a certain platform some time ago that I saw a job vacancy, Chief Human Resource Officer. That title is not a small title, Chief Human Resource Officer. It's like a COO or like you are the Chief Operating Officer, Chief Executive Officer. But yet when you go and you see the job description or you go and see the job this person does, it's just an HR officer job. But the title is so heavy. And so by job grading, it says that once you have this title, put the person within a certain band. So once the person has this title, the person is automatically manager grade C. If the person is using clerical, make the person clerical grade B. That is how the non-analytical method is used. So it's purely qualitative, it's purely by observation, it's purely by intuition, it's purely by previous experiences, it's purely based on the peculiarities of that company or the industry. Now, on the other hand, we have the analytical approach. Now, these ones are a bit complex, expensive, but they are very objective. We will not be able to go into the details here because it will take a lot of time and it will bring a lot of confusion. I'm sure Patricia in future said that training programs will be doing job evaluation exercises. So for those of you who probably want to learn how exactly it is done, you can contact SEDAT for their training programs and we can go into the details. Now, I'll just give an overview. Now, when you pick the factor comparison basically is saying that pick the factors needed to do the job. So if I pick, let's say, an accountant, what factors do I need to do this? The person needs to be analytical. The person needs to have maybe a professional ICO or ACCA certification. The person needs to have 5 years experience. The person needs to have blah, blah, blah. Pick all these factors, compare the common factors in these jobs, and use the factors to rank the job. So you are picking 7 different jobs. Pick the factors that are common to these jobs and use these factors to rank them. So if I pick education, which of these ones require higher education? So the one that requires PhD is ranked higher. The one that requires maybe first degree is ranked lower. So I'm using the factors or the criteria for this job to determine the value or the worth of the jobs. That is the factor comparison method. I admit it is not as straightforward as I am saying it. There's a lot of work that goes into it. But if you want to do that one, it will take us about another 4 hours because we will start exposing people's basic mathematics deficiency. I don't want any trouble today. The other method, which is the point ranking method, says that when you pick a factor, which is a further breakdown of the factor comparison, when you pick a factor, define the various competencies under that factor and assign points to them. So, for instance, if the job requires masters, give it 5 points. If it requires first degree, give it 4 points. If it requires SHS, give it 3 points. If it requires BEC, give it 2 points. If the job requires the use of strength, give it 5 points. If it does not require the use of strength, give it 1 point. If the work involves a lot of risk, let's say exposure to accidents, give it 5 points. If it's less exposure to accident, give it 0 points. If the job requires the supervision of more than 20 people, give it 5 points. Between 15 and 20 people, give it 4 points. Between 10 and 15 people, give it 3 points. Between 5 and 10 people, give it 2 points. Less than 5 people, give it 1 point. Now, when I pick every job, I start using these points to rank them. When I finish, I sum up all these points. The job that seems to have more points is the job that is the most valued job in the company, and it becomes the highest ranked job. So if I pick a job, like for instance, the 7 jobs that I listed, cleaner, house help, cook, gardener, and I say the factors, the common factors to this job is probably, let's say, supervision, let's say, qualification. Let's say, let me just pick 3 things. Mental exertion. The first question I'll ask myself is, the cleaner, does the cleaner have anybody he or she is supervising? If it doesn't have any person it's supervising, I'll say no. So it gets a 0 point for supervision. Does the house help have somebody he or she is supervising? Maybe no. The cook, no. The gardener, no. The security officer, no. The caretaker, is probably supervising 3 or 4 people. So I give the caretaker maybe 4. The babysitter is supervising the children in the home. So maybe I give the babysitter 5. Then I come to the next one. What do I need any qualification to be a cleaner? Maybe I need primary school or basic school education. So I give that one just 1. House help. I need primary school, I give 1. Cook. For you to be a good cook, maybe the person should have done a certification. So I give the person 3. Gardener, the person probably also appreciates some bit of landscaping. So I give the person 3. Security officer, yes, I give the person 4. Caretaker, 4. Babysitter, maybe 3. Mental exertion. If you're a cleaner, what mental exertion? How much of your brains do you apply to the work you do compared to the house help, compared to the cook? So the cook maybe because you have to add spices and do delicacies and all those things. I can give the cook, let's say 5. The gardener, because I have to be trimming and knowing when to prune and when to apply manure, I can give the gardener 4. Security, to know how to even set things in the house, I'll give the person 5. Now, when I finish all this, I'll start adding the points. You realize that maybe the security now would have 19 points. Babysitter would now have 21 points. Caretaker will have 22 points. Cook will have 17 points. House help will have 6 points. Cleaner will have 3 points. And based on this now, I can say that based on the point assigned, the most valuable job is a babysitter. Next is a caretaker. Next is this. So I'm able to rank these jobs. And then when I'm determining salary, I know that if I'm paying the babysitter more than I'm paying the cook, it's because the value of the babysitter is more than the value of the cook. The value of the babysitter is more than the value of the cook. And so these are the 4 methods or the 4 ways you can use to do your evaluation. Like I mentioned, each of these ones have its pros and cons. The non-analytical ones are less expensive. They are very easy for you to apply, but they are very subjective and will raise a lot of questions and arguments when applied. The other 2 are very objective, but then they are very expensive and very complex that if you do not know how to apply them, you struggle. Most often, you need experts to be able to teach you or help you apply these 2 analytical methods. So at this point, I will pause and take questions from the house. Patricia, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Kojo. Yes, this has been very detailed indeed, and thank you for making the time. We have, I think, 2 questions. So first says, so for a power utility, which approach would you recommend? Then let me add the second one. The second one from Joseph says, what role does job description play in the job evaluation process? Also, what are the metrics or indicators to help one know the extent to which a particular job is exposed to risk or not? If you can take these 2 questions, then you can come back.
So Sophia, for a power utility company, most often the question we'll ask is how many people are working there? If a company has less than 10 staff, you do not bother yourself to go through the analytical process because it's too expensive for just 10 people. So if the company has less than 10 people or has about 10 people, or even let's say 15 people, and their job specification is not too complex, then you just don't worry yourself with the analytical. You can just do with the non-analytical. And I mean, these are 50 people, you can deal with their emotions. But if it's more, 2,000, then you cannot use the analytical. Sorry, the non-analytical. You would have to use, at best, you have to use the point ranking approach. Because the point ranking approach identifies key jobs, does it for the key jobs, and then now slots every other job in there. Remember, you are not doing it for 2,000 employees. You might have 2,000 employees, but maybe 500 of the employees are doing the same job. 5,000 of them might be power technicians, or might be mechanical engineers. So they are all on the same job description. So we are not counting the employees, we are counting the jobs. So maybe you have 2,000 employees, but maybe you have about just 60 jobs. So based on that one, you use that to rank. So if you are having this number of employees, which would mean that you have about more than 50 jobs, then it will be best for you to use the analytical approach. And I would recommend the point ranking approach. The point ranking approach. I have 100 jobs, say yes. So the point ranking approach. Behind the scene, you can speak to Patricia. I'm sure she should be able to assist you with how to go about that one. For Joseph, what role does job description play in the job evaluation process? So, like I mentioned earlier, job description, which is a product of job analysis, is what talks about the specific jobs or the task entailed in that particular job. And it also details the job specification, which is what qualifications are needed, what skills are needed, what abilities are needed, what temperaments are needed, and all those things. So those ones gives you the criteria to use to do the evaluation. So if I'm evaluating 10 jobs and I pick all the 10 jobs, all of them will tell me that you need for one, let me explain it. For the 10 jobs, each of them will say that you need educational qualification. So the next question I'll ask is, all of them need educational qualification, but what levels of educational qualification do I need for each of them? So it's the levels of educational qualification that will differentiate between job A and job B. Now, when it comes to the bit about the risk, let me read the question, sorry. Also, what are the metrics or indicators to, please give me a minute. Let me just stop sharing so I can be able to read properly. It's interfering for me. Forgive me. Chats. Okay.
It says also what are
yes.
It says also what are the metrics
yes.
or indicators to help one know the extent to which a particular job is exposed to risk or not?
Okay. So Joseph, this is a bit open, because if I work in a bank, the risk associated with my job for a teller is a risk of attack, verbal and physical abuse. Me sitting at the back office, I am not exposed to that risk. So the risk criteria or the metrics to determine risk will differ from industry to industry and from company to company. The person who does road construction, the risk is different. The driver's risk is different because he sits the whole time, and so he has a risk of injuring his or her spinal cord. And so basically, normally, the indicators or the metrics we try to use on a generic level is to find out whether the person is exposed to any physical, mental, emotional risk. These three things. The most dangerous among these three things depend on industry. Some industries, mental risk or emotional risk is more dangerous than physical risk. So based on the agreement in your company, then you'll be able to assign the necessary weight to the risk. Some people will say that, well, we value mental exertion here more than physical exertion. So we will give more points or more priority to mental exertion or mental risk than to physical risk. So probably if the job requires or puts a person at a mental risk, the probability of a mental risk, you give the person a 5 for a point than somebody whose risk is verbal. Maybe the person at the call center, or the person is getting his phone call when the person is insulting you. You have an option of putting the phone down or taking it away from your ear. But the person standing in front of the customer that they are running abuses at, they don't have the option of moving away. So those are the ways you can determine what risk you would want to evaluate or to consider. Okay,
right.
So Dolores
Thank
is also asking.
Kojo, let's let Laura's hands has been up for a while. Laura, if you can hear me, you can unmute and ask your question. Then we come to Laura's question. Laura, please unmute. Admin, kindly unmute. Allow Laura to unmute so she can ask a question. Okay, whilst maybe we are waiting to take off that, could you maybe you can look at Dolores' question then. Admin, please help Laura so she can unmute. Kojo, you can pick Dolores' question while we are waiting for Laura to unmute.
Okay, so Dolores, what with a factor comparison method, what you're doing is that you are ranking jobs using a series of factors. So there's a bit of similarity between that and the point tracking. Just that point, you assign points. Now you say that, okay, in this company, for you to be a supervisor, we expect you to have mental effort, physical effort. You are supposed to maybe have supervise 10 or 20 people. So these factors, we assume them, or these are factors that we see to be constant for the set of jobs that we have. Now, when we are evaluating, what we are doing is that we are comparing these factors per job to rank amongst itself. So there are 20 factors in this company. Now, if I pick job A, how many of these factors does job A require for me to have? 19 of them. If I pick job B, how many of the factors does this require me to have? 18. So based on the number of constant factors that you identify in each job, you use that to rank the job and say that this job is more valuable because in this job, there's mental exertion, there's physical exertion, there's higher educational qualification, there is this, there is that, there is stocking, there is A, B, C, and D. So there are 20 of the factors found in this one. The next one is lower because there's 19 of the factors. So that's how you use to rank or compare the factors to be able to rank these jobs. Dolores, I don't know whether I've been able to answer your question. Please.
Thank you very much. Could you, so
if I have.
Right, thank you. Laura, please, you can unmute now and ask your question. Laura, are you there? Please, you can now unmute and then ask your question.
I think admin has to unmute her because she's unable to unmute.
And he has done that. He has done that. I think he has allowed everyone to be able to unmute. So, Laura, please, if you can hear me, kindly unmute.
Hey,
hello, Laura.
Laura, everybody else is able to unmute, so you need to be able to unmute.
Oh, you come tell me no call me ask what I did.
Please, if you are not, kindly mute. Kindly mute. If you are not talking to us directly, kindly mute. Laura, please unmute and ask your question.
She says she's unable to unmute. Laura, can you type your question then?
Then please type your question. I'm sorry about that. Everybody else is able to unmute. I don't know why you are not. Right. So whilst Laura is typing her question, let me say that yes, job evaluation we can't just do that within the few minutes that we have. It's a whole day's job. And so like I said from the beginning, we have 4 major HR focused training programs that we run every year. Performance management, compensation and benefits management, HR analytics, and then succession planning. February, we are having the performance management, and Kojo will be facilitating. It's coming off from the 28th to the 29th. So we'll share the further information with you, but it's in person at the Crystal Palm Hotel. Then on April 25th to 26th, we are having a compensation and benefits management training. And that is where we take time to go through the job evaluation it's very practical and hands-on. So you come with your laptop, and then we do the evaluation, and then we build a salary structure that you can actually defend anywhere. So please lock the dates: April 25th, 26th, compensation and benefits management training in Accra, and then February 28th, 29th, performance management. We are looking at how you can build an effective performance management system. But beyond that, we'll give you two main performance management systems that are really good: the balance scorecard and then 360-degree feedback. We'll take you deep into it so that you can actually implement them in your workplace. So thank you very much. Laura has typed a question. Sorry, Laura, that we're not able to ask your question yourself. Just wanted to make a comment on quantitative analysis and job analysis vis-a-vis job description. Okay. Admin, why is Laura? I think Laura wants to make a comment. What means that she actually needs to talk and not type. Can she actually talk now? Sophia says, shape the compensation training by next week. Why? I beg. Okay, we'll look at that. Okay. Right. Thank you. Okay. Laura, can you try one more time to see if you can unmute? Or maybe you can go off and rejoin. And let's see. So whilst she's doing that, Kojo, if you can give us your final words, and then we can end the session. If Laura joins us back, we'll give her the opportunity to make her comments.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity. Like Patricia said, you can get in touch with Patricia if you need me to clarify anything in the back for you, and Patricia would find a way to get us connected. Of course, if it's something that is very detailed, there's a line where consultancy comes in. But at this point, it's pro bono what we are doing. Yeah. So if it gets where you will need to be walked through a process, then obviously we would hand you over to Sedat to handle that bit. But if it's clarification on anything that we have discussed that you need us to shed more light on, please reach out to Patricia. She'll just get you in touch with myself, and then we can just straighten whatever edges need to be straightened. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you. Happy new month to everybody, and let's make a date another time. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you so much, Kojo. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We appreciate the time you have spent with us. I hope it has been worth your while. Let's just to reiterate, February 28th to 29th, we are having performance management training at the Crystal Palm Hotel. April 25th, 26th, compensation and benefits management training. June 26th to 28th, HR analytics. And then succession planning is September 27th. So make a date. We'll share further details with you. If you registered, it means that we have your email, so we can send further details to your email. Thank you so much for making the time. Laura, are you able to unmute now? If you are, please give your comments now, please.
Thank you so much, Madam Facilitator, and the main facilitator for a very insightful workshop. It was very to the point, and I'm grateful for the time that you've spent. This is Laura from Zambia, and we are keenly following you with regards to the workshops. With regards to the quantitative aspect of job analysis, depending also on the analysis factors that you are going to take into consideration, there is some aspects which, for instance, can be quite quantitative. So I'll give an example of when you're looking at the roles within a job. So for example, if I take the job of the CEO in a medium to large enterprise, the CEO, for example, would be responsible for or will have oversight over strategic planning and execution. He also have oversight over risk governance and compliance. He may also have, you also have oversight over the financial management and frugality of an institution. So when you look at those factors, sometimes it's important to just understand how much effort would go into these particular roles of the CEO, because at the end of the day, it is going to help you to understand where the major effort of this job is. So when you look at, for example, the strategic planning and execution and M&E of that CEO, you'll be able to then ask, how often does this role perform these tasks? Is it on a daily basis? Is it on a quarterly basis? Is it on an annual basis or biannual? That way, even when you are crafting the job description, you actually be able to adjudicate the correct effort in terms of percentage that goes into that particular role of the CEO. So this is where now the quantitative aspect comes in. And I'm sure a number of us have seen this job description where, or role descriptions where, for example, you see the key roles or key responsibility and the actual time split that goes into that particular role in percentage terms. Then you'll be able to now understand how that is arrived at. Then there are also other factors which might require some quantitative analysis. So for example, even the mental effort, the oral skills, the visual skills, the mental dexterity, you want to understand how often is this being executed or implemented or administered on a role. Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly, quarterly, and ABCD? So that helps also in terms of being able to understand some of the efforts, so that even when this role holder is provided with the role profile or job description, he or she will be able to know that 50% of my time will go into, for example, marketing or business development. So that's just an aspect of quantitative that we've been able to use, that I've been able to use over the years to be able to understand some quantitative aspects of the job. But then again, just to contribute now on the second comment that I had made, which is job analysis, job description, as well as job evaluation. These three aspects are actually very, very interlinked. If you use a job analysis methodology, which does not align to the job or that you would like to use, you will not be able to do the job description based on that format. So from my experience, I've actually been able to work from the back to the front. So I first want to understand the job evaluation methodology that I'm going to use. Is it the ranking? Is it the points? Or is it an off-the-shelf system like Hay or Patterson or Conferry as the new name? And then that will help me to say that since I'm using this job evaluation system, then I'll know what to analyze in a job. What factors does this job evaluation system require? And therefore, what sort of job evaluation, what sort of job description will be required? So I just also wanted to point out that there's a very strong link between your analysis part, the job description part, and also the job evaluation part. I thank you and I submit, facilitator.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Laura. Well said. Thank you for the input, for the feedback. Kojo, is there anything you want to add, or we are good to go?
We are good to go. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. So see you at the other side next week. HR Digest comes away through StreamYard next week. Like I said, first Sunday of every month, we'll do the Zoom session so that it can be more interactive. And then subsequently, we'll go back to the StreamYard. And I've hinted that we'll have a hangout somewhere in June in Accra. So each other just hang out, look out for it. Further details will be shared soon. Thank you, everyone. Do have a productive week. And may God bless us all. Thank you and have a blessed evening. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye and thank you.
Welcome, Sophia.